This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by the Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational, which is coming up this Sunday and Monday, July 9th and 10th at the Omni Interlochen Resort in Broomfield, Colorado. The actual golf tournament itself kicks off on Monday morning with a night of cocktails and networking set to kick the event off the night before on Sunday. If you're in the legal marijuana industry in Colorado, you need to be at this event, even if you're terrible at golf, like me. Maybe especially if you're terrible at golf. At least you'll be memorable as you shank and slice your way through the course. The Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational is going to be packed with a veritable who's who in the mile-high legal cannabis industry, and you should be there. To learn more about signing up as a player, just open up Facebook and do a search for Rosebud Golf Invitational. That's Facebook, search for Rosebud Golf Invitational. And of course, you can always find a link over at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, July 5th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 281 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day brings us out to Nevada, where on Saturday, the state became the fifth in the nation to allow for the legal sale and consumption of adult use marijuana, joining Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska, with Massachusetts, Maine, and California set to join in later next year as they implement their rules and regulations for doing so. As regular listeners know, Nevada is allowing medical marijuana dispensaries to sell to adult use customers ahead of the official launch date of adult use dispensaries in January. All reports from this weekend's first few days of sales have been extremely positive, with long lines of happy customers reported statewide. Swing over to the Seattle Times for the full read on this one. The Record has a good piece up about the demographic licensed medical marijuana providers in Canada say they are targeting as new customers with their advertising and marketing efforts. Contrary to what your average prohibitionist might think, it's not young people that cannabis companies want as customers, but rather older, middle-aged folks with larger amounts of discretionary income, a historic generational fondness for cannabis, and plenty of medical ailments to be helped by its medicinal use. With Canada working out the details for how its soon-to-be implemented adult use legal system will operate, this is certainly one of the bigger issues in need of a solution. Another good one to dive into fully. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Our final top story of the day swings us way down under to Australia, where the government is working through the process of legalizing a limited medical marijuana system. As Leafly's piece finds it, one of the difficult things Australian lawmakers are wrestling with is figuring out how to regulate the act of driving while high. This is an issue that regular listeners know is not an easy one to solve, with no workable solution having been suggested anywhere yet so far. Traditional drug tests don't tell you anything about how high and impaired a person might be at that moment. Currently in the state of South Australia, lawmakers and police are planning on rolling out new roadside saliva tests that they say will detect the presence of THC. If found over the allowed limit, even within a registered medical marijuana patient, that person will be charged with driving under the influence. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, the second annual Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational, coming up this Sunday and Monday, July 9th and 10th at the beautiful Omni Interlochen Resort in Broomfield, Colorado. This is a great way to spend your day as you network and hobnob with some of the best and brightest in Colorado's legal marijuana scene, with tons of opportunities to talk and mingle and chat and share and collect business cards. You'll kick yourself if you don't end up making it out to the second annual Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational. The fear of missing out on this one should be very high. Don't let FOMO get the best of you. Just search Facebook for Rosebud Golf Invitational to find a link to sign up as a player. And of course, you can always find a link over at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. All right, time for the Blitz. Our next two stories are somewhat related in that they both talk about the growing phenomenon of smelling burning marijuana while walking around a major U.S. city. First up is a piece about Washington, D.C. and how ubiquitous the smell of cannabis being enjoyed is becoming on the streets of the nation's capital, with one resident quoted showing some surprise at smelling it in, quote, buttoned up Georgetown. The second headline in this two-piece combo is pretty much the same story as the Post's, just by the Boston Globe and shifted north to that Massachusetts city, where last fall's newly enacted adult-use marijuana law has emboldened Bostonians to more freely break out their pipes, joints, and vape pens. These are kind of lightweight stories on the surface, but they do point to the much bigger issue of how marijuana use will actually flow in the public space. On Monday, Florida's Office of Medical Marijuana Use within the state's Department of Health published a notice of adoption for a set of regulations governing their state's medical marijuana program that was passed during their recent special legislative session. The new set of rules expands the state's list of licensed providers from 5 to 17, while doling out hundreds of dispensary licenses to be split up between them. Philly.com has a good piece up about Pennsylvania's soon-to-launch medical marijuana program and the expected lack of smell that will emanate from the state's medical dispensaries. This is due to the fact that Pennsylvania's laws won't allow for loose marijuana flower to be sold to patients, just oils, vape pens, topicals, pills, and tinctures, none of which come with the overpowering smell of raw cannabis. This is a good piece to jump into as it covers a lot of details on how the state's industry is looking as it works to spool up. The Independent is reporting that the nation of Greece is working to legalize medical marijuana. Last week, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said that soon doctors in his nation will be free to prescribe medical marijuana to patients in need. There aren't many details on this one yet in terms of an expected timeline, so we'll make sure to pop in with any relevant updates. In Massachusetts, a recent ruling by the State Division of Administrative Law Appeals highlights the complexities of practicing medical marijuana, with a doctor's license being reinstated after the Board of Registration in Medicine originally found that his recommendation to a pregnant woman to use medical marijuana was improper. Dr. Tyrone Cushion was reinstated after a magistrate found his actions to be, quote, reasonable under the circumstances and met the standard of care, unquote. The case involves a pregnant woman suffering from untreatable back pain with an addiction to opioid-based medicines, who Dr. Cushion thought better to be on medical marijuana than prescription painkillers. This is a good one to dive into for all the nuance. And finally for today, as Americans took the day off yesterday to blow stuff up in the air and eat grilled meat in celebration of the 4th of July, the International Business Times looks at the use of medical marijuana to treat pets freaked out by fireworks going off outside. This is one of those kind of fringe industry issues that definitely has some weight behind it, as there are a lot of people who spend money on their pets. Definitely worth a click over. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. One quick note before we wrap for the day, I just want to let you all know that I've turned off a pop-up plugin on our website that asks visitors to sign up to our newsletter after noticing that our stats suffered in the days following its installation. So if you've shied away from visiting mjtodaydaily.com because of that, know that the way is now clear through to the news. No more annoying pop-up. Apologies for the bad call there. Thanks to our sponsor, the Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.